I'm Sonali, your host for this evening. A warm welcome from MRSI to all of you, and thank you for making it. Let me welcome the MRSI team and the TCP team here. This is the first time we are hosting this event in Delhi, and we do hope we'll come here more often. That said, this year is specifically, it's a milestone year for us because we are celebrating the 5 years of TCP. It's marking the 5 years of TCP. The community program, it's an annual competition which showcases the best and the brightest of the young research talent, promoting data, research and insights in service of community at large. It is often said that a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Over the last couple of months, our young researchers have put in a lot of hard work, a full lot of enthusiasm, and tons of dedication and commitment have shown a lot of commitment towards the towards the cause that they have picked up, and we want to recognize them and reward them. So let us all celebrate the spirit of joy of giving through social service. To kick off the event, in the next 90 minutes, there will be some inspiring discussions, panel discussions, and of course exciting because we are going to be announcing the winner of TCP 2024. Not taking much time, to kick off the event, I would like to invite Mr. Nitin Kamath, Chief Growth and Partnership Officer at TAM Media Research Private Limited and the current President of MRSI Managing Committee. Let me say a few things about Nitin. With over 19 years of experience in media research industry, Nitin has extensive expertise in media research, finance, compliance, people management, and organizational skills. In his current role, he is dedicated to identifying future growth opportunities for the company and developing collaborations and partnerships to drive growth and diversification. Let's welcome Nitin. Nitin, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm quite delighted to be part of this program, the 5th edition of the community program. And apparently this is my first interaction as President of MRSI also. I'm very delighted. So while Sonali has given us a brief about what this program is all about, and I'm sure my colleagues are also going to talk about it, what I wanted to do was, for all of us to take connect with this particular program and go a little deep dive into it and understand the essence of this particular program. So, as we all know, we are all part of a social unit, right? And we are part of a community. And in our day-to-day activities, we are so busy with, specifically the people in this room. We are busy with our, work, client management, social connects, family, list just goes on. And in that busy schedule, what happens is, we basically, put our energies into work, so there are privileges that we get out of it in terms of we work, we spend, we earn, we compete, and we thrive towards growth and happiness. But when you compare it with people around in this community, do you see that, all of us are having similar privileges in life? And when we look around, we see that there is a lot of disparity amongst the community. Hence, I feel the key question is, what is expected from us and what can we do? And that's, I feel, is the essence of the community program. So I came across this beautiful quote from Ray Kroc, which says, we have an obligation to give something back to the community that gives so much to us. And I could relate to this particular quote when I was preparing myself for this particular program. And hence, what I see is, as market researchers, what can we offer? So if, let's say, MRSI started this event and it's an initiative to actually give back to the community, as market researchers, what can we offer? So our offering would be in the way of services that we provide on research and analytics. And what we see is So we offer our services to NGOs, organizations who are charitable organizations or non-profit organizations, and these organizations are working on well-being of underprivileged. They work on bigger causes like environment, climate change, gender equality, sustainability, and many more. And what we give them is, with this platform, we are able to partner with them and give back our analytics and our research, which can help them in their cause. So that's the essence of TCP. Now going back, I mean, we just heard that this is a milestone year for us of 5 years, and when I see the journey across 4 years, there has been active participation by the members. The young researchers have voluntarily put in hard work to work on these projects. They have connected with the NGOs, the organizations, the charitable organizations now. They have actually done grassroots level work on ground, understanding their issues, their concerns, their challenges, and coming out with kind of solutions which can be given back to them in terms of insights, and which these organizations can use it for their own purposes. And when it comes to organizations, I feel what we are doing is just a small effort, but these organizations are putting very significant role. They are playing significant role actually for each of the cause that they pick up. And there is an endless journey of meeting those objectives for the community. And what we are doing is a small piece of effort to help them in their social causes. So, as we have seen the participation year on year, this year too we have, and I just got to know from Mitali that we have 6 teams who have participated in this. I think we should all congratulate them for their efforts. And it's time for us to actually go through their journeys. Let's understand their experiences, what they have encountered as challenges, and how they have come out with various solutions for these particular organizations. And at the end, I would also like to tell that, when we hear their stories, their journey, it's important for us also to understand and probably take back one goal that we can take back to the community. Let ourselves also identify one goal which we should be taking back from these stories. So, thank you very much. And I think we should give a big round of applause to all the participants.
I would now like to invite our first presenter for today evening, Mr. Pravin Shekar. Pravin Shekar is the chairman and CEO of Kriya, a leading healthcare decision support company in India. He also serves as a managing partner at Crux 108, a firm specializing in outlier marketing consulting. He is a recipient of American Marketing Association's 4 Under 40 and the Emerging Leader in Market Research Award. Committed to social causes, Pravin has invested in Kando, a BPO dedicated to employing individuals with physical disabilities, and Kesar, an artisanal cheese-making venture that also provides employment to people with disabilities. Pravin has been a past president of the MRSI, former interim CEO of ESOMAR, a founding member of PSAI, which is Professional Speakers Association of India, and a founding member of TCP. So welcome, Pravin.
Lovely. Welcome everybody. It's great to see you all here. This is the 5th year and the 2nd in succession when we are having these awards. I am Pravin Shekar, and it is my privilege to be a part of the TCP from its initiation. The TCP name was given by Sandeep Saxena, Priya Lobo and Sundar Muthuraman, who were the first champions of the community program. The genesis started off from Hong Kong during the ESOMA Asia Pacific event, when the reps and others have a brainstorming event, when Hong Kong came up with a suggestion that why don't we use the younger researchers to go ahead and do something. And I put my hand up because MRSI has to be on the forefront for everything, and together Hong Kong and MRSI India have been the forerunners across, and now consult with a lot of countries who all want to get into the research got talent, or the younger researchers who are doing it. Every country has adapted it the way they want, and the TCP is our adaptation, which is on its 5th year running. What a wonderful, wonderful moment. The details that were shared by Nitin, and I'm here to continue and present one particular aspect. But when we move on, that's the start from 2018. use an analogy here. The chicken is produced by an egg to make a better egg. Paraphrasing Samuel Butler, a simple statement that a chicken is produced or created by an egg to make a better egg. And therefore, in our 5th year, there is so much more of an improvement that we have from a TCP that we go ahead and use these seeds to inspire ourselves, to inspire the society and a whole lot of youngsters and researchers, so that we will have to glam up our research world, and this is our way to do it with a social cause. In Tamil, there is a lovely saying called Sirutuli Peruvellam, or small drops make an ocean. These are our small drops, these are our small seeds. And we are all, as custodians of the world of research and insights, here to make sure that we continue the seeding, but we also water and plant and let this good virus spread across. And I'm here to talk about, well, any idea that comes through has 3 stages. The first time you hear an idea, the brain says, what a nonsense, horrible idea. That's not going to work. 6 months later, when somebody is doing something, you'll say, hey, it's a good idea, but it won't work here. And the third time, the third stage is when somebody has made a success out of it, you'll say, hey, I always knew it was a good idea. Well, MRSI is at that stage when the rest of the world is looking at us and saying, hey, we always knew it was a good idea, great. So we are an open book right here that we are saying, hey, this is what we have done, these are the mistakes that we have had. Go ahead and use it. Tell us about how you did it so we can also continue to get inspired here. So that's one aspect. Let's move on. What a beautiful world we are in when we have youngsters, the corporates supporting these youngsters. And in fact, if you look at the first 1 or 2 editions, we had technical competitors helping each other because this is a social cause. And that is the overarching reach, and that's pretty much what the MRSI wants to do with TCP, that hey, we are one industry, we are there for the society, competition will always be there, but for a particular cause, I have a doubt, can you help out? And we had competitors collaborate, guide the youngsters to come up and get it done. That's a beautiful world that we live in, and we are here to celebrate that beautiful world, including those who are online, that we need more seeds, we need more sparks. And to talk about last year's one, no means no. What is your definition of rape? We are right now hearing a lot of news, especially what happened in Kolkata. What is your definition of rape? Rape is rape, but it is from a legal context, has various connotations. And the 2 that you see behind me are Vitek and Christina from NMR Market Research to the Czech Republic. And in Czech Republic, the definition of rape is rape happens only when there is physical violence. There's no concept of a consent. What kind of a definition is that? And that is exactly what these 2 younger researchers took on and worked with a non-profit called Consent. And I'm here to tell you in brief about their story, that they took it on themselves to do research, to find out and go ahead and champion. This is a story of not just thinking but an execution right down to the impact and the challenges they faced. How do we go ahead and change the definition of rape? How do we go ahead and convince, do research? What are the challenges? What kind of a questionnaire would you frame? What robust sampling are you going to have? Who are you going to interview? How are you going to interview? What are the sensitivities that are there? This is such a heavy topic. Who are you going to go and interview? How are you going to get it done? And what are all the communication parts across stakeholders? You have the non-profits, you have the people who are suffering, you have the families around, the bureaucrats, the psychiatrists, psychotherapists, as well as the politicians. That includes all the lawmakers, and that's exactly the realm. Did they bite off more than they can chew? Absolutely yes. But they worked with Consent, the non-profit, met all these challenges, executed the survey. The questionnaire was designed very sensitively. It's a very complex topic that they are dealing with, all of us are. How do you simplify it so there is an understanding, the same understanding across all the stakeholders? How do we take it up as a challenge? So they went ahead, and remember, in TCP, as with Research Got Talent, who funds these projects? The non-profits do not, which means the corporates give them the blessing and the necessary funding to go ahead. But in this case, because of the power of the topic and the need, the media also stepped in to support as a key stakeholder. So the research, as it happened, as it rolled down, there was sufficient media coverage across. So the youngsters, these two youngsters, worked closely with the non-profit, executed the study, published the result, publicized the result, because the ecosystem, the general public of the Czech Republic is also a key component to pressure across to what comes through as the demonstrable proof. Why are we doing what we are doing? Because we are outcome driven. We just don't do the research and leave it. What happens? How is it going through? And the demonstrable proof that these two youngsters have done is they changed the wording in the Czech Republic law. And that is the outcome. You can put your hands together because you know how difficult it is to get through. They made that positive change happen. So it's not just research, it's the entire execution right through to pressing the buttons from all stakeholders to the fact that now the lawmakers in the Czech Republic have added that it's not just physical harm, but also consent that constitutes what rape is, and it's now a part of the law. But let's hear for a minute from the two young researchers themselves.
Our project was based on cooperation with the NGO concept, social advocates that fight for the rights of victims of sexual violence in the Czech Republic. The aim of the project was to help change the law considering the definition of rape, because the current legislation does not cover reality. The act of rape needs to be defined in law as an act based on the absence of consent, not on the use of physical violence. We cooperated with consent in stating all the hypotheses, as well as during the making of the questionnaire.
We presented the results to the MPs, got insight to the main media, and about a month after that, Czech Ministry of Justice presented two draft amendments to the definition of rape. The final wording is after 2 years being finally agreed on, and political change in the Czech Republic is finally within reach, and it is directly connected to the conduction of the research. We're very proud of that, and thank you for your attention.
Yes, please. We know how important the topic is. It's not a stigma, it is a reality, and we will need to. And these two young researchers have shown the way. And thank you, Mitali and Finali, for playing this video, because what happens there, we would need to get inspired to see what can we do in the forthcoming edition of the community program, because this is a universal problem, and we are here across here as well as online. We've got clients, we've got researchers, agencies, non-profits, and change makers sitting out here. And therefore, what is the purpose of the community program? It is to seed and spark, but also to elevate the younger researchers as change agents, as positive stakeholders. As the Olympics just got over, these are the youngsters who are carrying our torch in research and insights across. Why are we? What are we? Who are we for? As the corporate world is continuing to go on, why don't all of us spread the word about the TCP, about the good work that we are doing with our colleagues, with our clients, with our stakeholders and agents, and include and invite a whole lot of other non-profits who have major research work that they would need to conduct. We could look at matching, and if there are youngsters, and obviously there are a lot of youngsters in each of your corporates, whatever we've done this year, can we not double the seeding that we do into our own ecosystem, our own environment? And that is where I would like to leave you with, charged, so that when we look at the forthcoming presentations, we will leave with a flame outside to go ahead and see what else can we do, what all can we do, what single step forward can I make today, because I am MRSI, I am TCP, I am a part of the society, and all of us belong to that I. So thank you very much for coming over. You can reach out to Vitek and Christina and talk to them more about the project that they have done. And all the younger researchers who are going to go ahead and present, reach out, connect, form that network, because, well, you are taking on a foundation, and soon you will be setting that foundation on which some of us will also be sitting and enjoying. So thanks a lot for participating. All the very best, and back to you, sir.
Thank you, Pravin. A very sensitive topic. No means no is itself a movement, and which has also got stirred up in India. And guys, if you have not seen the movie Pink, please go and watch it. So, moving on, I would now like to invite Mitali Chowhan, Director General MRSI, to speak more specifically about TCP 2024.
Thank you, everyone. The TCP program is something that seems very simple to do, and seems very simple to do, and we think it's all about the young researchers. But before we kick that off, I'd like to give a massive thank you to the people who have actually helped us make this happen. We have a committee, and the committee guides the entire process, our definitions, our updations, how we look at things, the qualifications and so on, and what we relax, what we are not able to relax. So I'd just like to introduce the committee. Anila Vinayak is the chair of this year's TCP committee. She's General Manager, Beauty and Wellbeing Personal Care at South Asia. This is her second year on the committee, and I think that's a big thanks to Anila. Parijat Chakravarti, also on the committee, is Country Leave, Public Affairs and Corporate Reputation, CSR, ESG and CSR for Ipsos. And he was last year's chair. You'll see a pattern here. Ranko Chakravarti, CEO DataWise Management Services India, is his third year on the committee. He was erstwhile chair of the DataWise. Massive thank you, Ranko, for continuing to be with us. And sort of was a great return, a blast from the past as it were. We have Priya Lobo, CEO of Max Compass, who has come back. I mean, she was one of the founding parents of TCP, and it's been amazing. There's a lot of work, and this work goes on over several months. But at the end of the day, we have submissions from a number of young researchers, and the task for us is to say, how do we objectively evaluate this? How is it that we have the experts from the field with expertise beyond just the expertise we have, most of us mainly in commercial research, so with understanding of social research, with understanding of the social sector, being able to figure out not only was the hypothesis right, was the work done right, but also was the outcome relevant, and did it move the needle for the particular NGO that they worked with. Massive, massive thank you to the jury who has helped us this year with the decision that you're all waiting for, but we're not quite going to share it with you. But before we start that, let me thank this year's jury. We have Amajit Mukherjee, Director Operations of ICRW Asia. We have Anuradha Roy Chaudhary, Head of Operations at Parikrama Humanity Foundation. We have Kultar Singh, CEO Sambodhi Research and Communications Private Limited. We have Shraman Jha, CEO Hindustan Unilever Foundation. And we have Dr. Kaushik from the Monitoring and Evaluation Specialist at UNFPA India. Big round of applause for all of us. And last but not the least, it's important to us to have this small event. We do hope this event will get bigger and will get more engaging. And for the entire event that we're able to have and the support that we have, big thank you to Hindustan Unilever, who for the second year is our partner for the TCP program. And I'll leave you with one last thank you to Joshajit Mukherjee, Josh, who was with us last year. And we're absolutely delighted to suddenly say, I'm in Delhi, I can't keep away. I'm going to be with you today in the room. Massive thank you.
Thank you, Mitali. Social research is not new in India. This discipline has been in India for the last over 50 years now, and the social research as a sector has played an instrumental role in identifying drivers of behavior, or understanding where is education going, what are the underprivileged people needing, where are the needs, understanding the needs, the motivation, the barriers for them to, for any kind of upliftment. So it's a vast topic and lots more to be done. We are not anywhere closer there, but we are nearing there or taking right steps towards that. I would like to invite, to build on this, I would like to invite Parijat Chakravarti, who is our TCP committee member, to introduce the next topic of today's event. Guys, it's going to be an absolutely inspirational discussion with our panel and Parijat will be moderating it.
Yeah, by the time they set up the stage, maybe I can just talk about this topic. This is one program that we do as a part of MRSI, which is really very different from all other kind of seminars and all other activities we do. Because this is one platform where, in a short way, if you say that everybody gains, there is no loser in this whole party, right? Obviously, the NGO gains insights from bright researchers. Researchers gains. It's a great emotional payoff that really helps them go even forward on several aspects of this. MRSI gains. The sheer satisfaction of creating this platform where we are able to channelize the talent of one part of the industry for the benefit of another part of this industry. And actually SOMR also gains, right? The bright ideas, and like one of the previous one, we had an Indian researcher who won the SOMR the prize as well, right? So we thought this is a time when we have come 5 years. We have learned a lot during this process. Even every year it is giving us more insights, knowledge, how to do it even better. And this is the time to take a stock, like, okay, if we are talking about the social and development sectors, is it not that we make these sectors little more easy to understand for all the people, our young researchers who are there here today, or they're connected online, or they're going to listen to this recording later, because we are happy to see a lot of the participants, the young researchers, are actually not the typical social researchers. And I would say that's a success of TCP, that's a success of all of you, that so many people from typical consumer research, typical non-social research are getting attracted to that, and numbers are increasing every year, right? So we thought we'll just paint a broad picture for the actual benefit of our current young researchers and the prospective ones about this sector. Where are we today? What is that the great things that we are aiming? What are the challenges? So we have a great combination of panelists, I must say, and 4 of you are really eminent in their respective fields, and 4 of them are from 4 different fields. The people who are not so familiar how the social sector or industry operates, like say we have Dr. Kaushik. Can I invite, as I am talking about you guys, so please come in and take your seat. Say Dr. Kaushik, he's presenting. I can. So he's from UNFPA. You know that that's a part of United Nations, and he had been there for quite some time. And prior to that, he has worked in many organizations in this specific field, including USAID, Engender Health, Nutrition International, a series of those, all great organizations that he has worked on, and he is a monitoring evaluation specialist on that. I'm not getting into the details of that, because if I need to read each one of our eminent panelists what they have done, my time will be over. So I'm going very short on that. Now he can bring in a lot of perspective how a multilateral entity like United Nations, the perspective of that in the towards this sector, and that's very different from a sectoral perspective of, say, an NGO who is working at a grassroots level. There the challenges are different, there the needs are different, the entire ecosystem is different. So to contribute on that part, we have Ananya. May I request you to come over? Ananya Rastogi is from Sarva Seva Trust. She's a trustee. And the trust is working very closely among children in New Delhi particularly. And the specific areas of education and holistic development of children. And obviously, this organization is helping the children to grow in all possible and all required angles of their growth. And she's also an hospitality consultant, and she brings in that international experience of hospitality into the developmental sector. That will be an interesting thing to hear from you some other time maybe. But yes, thanks to bring in all these outside-in perspectives to this industry. And we also have people from Bill Melinda Gates Foundation, Pooja. And Pooja Shekar is a country lead, health and nutrition communication. And she brings in the perspective of a very large donor who is contributing to great work happening across different parts of the world for many sectors, and they are lucky to have very deep pockets, so that's why. Yeah, I would also love to, but anyway, that's a different story. Yeah, so what Pooja brings in, based on her long career in both developmental sector as well as prior to that, a lot of aspects in particularly the communication part of it, because development sector also requires a lot of communication. It's no more you get the money, you go and help somebody with some food and cloth and shelter, job is done. No, we are far away from there. We have gone to a much different stage. And we have Amajit Mukherjee, who is from ICRW. That's an interesting institute or center. Well, should I call it institute or organization? Is a better word.
Yeah, you can call it organization.
Okay, it's an organization which is focused more on the 50% of the population. That's the women, right? And in all aspects of their life, right? In all aspects of be it education, be it health, be it anything for that matter. And we all know a country cannot get into a developed stage or whatever you call it if 50% of the population is not coming at the same pace. Thanks, Amajit, for taking up this brilliant side of the industry. Okay, so I'll take my seat, and then what we are when we're thinking about having this discussions, we were a bit worried that this is probably a bit wide and a very large topic. Yes, it is. Our objective here today is to give everybody a high-level perspective, point of view. We are not going to get into very details of things, because these things are so we all are so passionate about it. We can go for hours discussing it. We don't even need tea, coffee, or water for that, like that. So you may find, this is for the audience, you may find that we may maybe not getting too details on something. That's by design. But if anybody is interested to know any aspect, more details, either connect with me or any of the panelists if you want to know more about what they are doing in that. Please feel free. So our topic is significance of social sector, social development sector towards a developed India. So if a developed India is our target, is our destination, is our whatever we are looking at few years or decades down the line. I don't want to get into political controversy about defining a milestone or defining when, how, and different names are also there of this. But those things happen. We all are working towards a better developed country. And people here are really working absolutely, 110% dedication towards, making that thing to happen. Now, it's the fact that we can go hours, it means, the audience today is young researchers. So this is a message more towards the panel. Obviously, each one of you can talk about it for hours, right? Keep in mind that our target today are the young researchers. Most of them are connected online or will be going through the recording. So if you are using abbreviations and acronyms, probably it will be a little difficult for them. So this is just a feedback I just wanted to give to you. Now let's come to this. We've been dreaming about this overall concept of developed India, and each one of us may have different perspective and different understanding, different satisfaction, different significance. So at any order, maybe Amajit, you can start. That what's your perspective towards that?
Sure. I think development has many dimensions, and it's not unidimensional, as I understand it. And I think in that perspective, one needs to also take a holistic, approach towards development. So one of the things that we have been trying to do is see that how best we can break the silos of development and look at convergent programming. And the reason I'm saying this is that we have worked across different kinds of programs. All of us who are sitting here, I'm sure, have that experience. And many times we have seen that a lot of things, can actually be sorted out if there is enough coordination and enough synergy between different sectoral approaches that are working. For example, there are health programs. Now, health programs have their own verticals in the government system. At the same time, you have a nutrition vertical also in the government system. You have an education vertical also in the government system. You have a child protection vertical in the government system. But it's so amazing to see that how wonderfully they are working in their own programmatic silos. But then there are ample opportunities of making it even bigger and more impactful if we could bring in slightest of the convergence there. Because there are things that can actually act as strength for another department. There are gaps which can be filled up by another health worker or another outreach worker who is already present in that given catchment, that village or that town.
Very good point.
So that's one point I just wanted to bring up, that in the development paradigm, I think the convergence is something which is really, really needed.
And our overall efficiency will improve because we will not be duplicating each other. We will not fight with your data versus my data. And this kind of things, it's a lot of wastage of time. And yeah, very, very, very good point. Thank you. Pooja?
So, at the Gates Foundation, we have a saying internally, and we talk about how all lives have equal value. And I think that's a very important marker of development, where everybody gets that equal space, right? And Rajat, you spoke about ICRW focusing on women, which is 50% of India. The fact that there are these inequalities that are existing, they are persistent, and we are okay with them. I think when we work towards a developed space, that's a space where a lot of the inequalities start to disappear across all these pieces that were just discussed, but also in terms of the fundamental building blocks of life. And we talk about how everybody deserves a chance, all lives deserve a chance to be led in a healthy and productive manner. Everybody deserves that opportunity. And development for us, therefore, is about ensuring that that opportunity is available to everybody, irrespective of who you are, where you're born, what your economic status is, what family you belong to, caste, religion, etc., etc. So those barriers Many of those are artificial barriers, but those starting to define where you stand on the equality spectrum, that's really where the problem is. So how do we get to a space where we remove those barriers and everybody gets a chance to lead a healthy and productive life? That's largely our thinking around development.
Fantastic. Yeah. If we have been able to remove the inequalities, even partially, the people who are privileged to be born in a family or in a locality where they have some things while others don't have that privilege, that itself is a big differentiator between people reaching their potential or not. Right. These inequalities are a very brilliant point where we can remove those artificially created, or just like a lottery. At the time of taking birth, instead of this place, I took birth somewhere else. Like they call it ovarian lottery. It makes people, successful or against that. But we also have people like Ananya, who could have built a career in a very different way, with an international, so-called more developed areas of the world and all. But she decided to really drop that and spend her time along with others towards this improvement of the society at albeit a smaller level within Delhi geography kind, not yet very wide, but within that the kind of work they're doing is marvelous. So we'd like to hear from you. What do you think a true developed India, as you see, what is the significance that the kind of work you are doing has?
I think when we look at development, we're looking more as a developed society where people are compassionate and have it in them to think of the next person. A lot of the children who we work with come from families where the fight for survival is so high that they've never been taught to think about the next person. They've always had to think about themselves. And we always, in all these years, taught them, we always gave them that, here, go do this course like this. So they never had it in them to do for the other person. But a few years ago, we started our mentorship program where our older students started giving back by mentoring the younger students. And we noticed that the younger students were a lot more comfortable going to the older students because there was increased relatability. And the older students also got a sense of purpose. They felt more important. They felt gratitude. They felt a lot of more things. And it turned out to be a huge success. A lot of times, like ma'am mentioned over here, there are barriers that people think, okay, I can only do for the next person when I have maybe this much amount of wealth, then only I can donate or contribute. Or even if it's about teaching or sharing their time, it's about, okay, I'm working, so I only don't have that kind of time. But it's really, if a child who's going to school with limited resources can, then the next person can also make the difference. So I think if we want to really see a developed India, every person has to find it somewhere within themselves to give back to society and do for the next person.
Great point. Giving back to society can be done even by the poorest person. It's not that if you are poor at your pocket. If you are rich at heart, you can start doing it, right? Great point. Let's hear from Dr. Kaushik, who being a part of a multilateral entity. So you get to see India vis-a-vis other countries at different stages of development on different sectors, subsectors of social sector. So what do you see India as, and how are you positioned? How are things in future from a multilateral point of view?
Yeah, thanks, Parija. As the panelists before me have spoken, I see development as a very multidimensional concept. Even though we have improved in terms of per capita income, in terms of economic growth significantly, there are many other areas where on health, on education, on nutrition, on issues with gender equality, harmful practices, where we continue to be lagging behind. especially on with respect to gender inequality. We are having 1/3 of the women face domestic violence. We have high rates of sex selection and child marriages. We are the capital of child marriages across the world. So a lot of these aspects of our society needs to improve. That's why we have the SDGs, which track across so many various parameters to have a holistic notion of development, and also across these sectors, and also as Pooja mentioned, inequalities, both by gender, by different social groups, and across geographies. I mean, the kind of the aggregates masks the kind of stark disparities that exist within. Even in Delhi, you have these high rises in Gurgaon, there be a slum next door. So those kind of stark inequalities are there. So working on many aspects of development and also removing the inequalities, giving people voices is what I consider, we consider as holistic development.
Yeah, very, very important points, and I'm sure we have to work on, as a country, we have to work on each of those areas to really hold ourselves, or even be able to take a few steps forward towards being truly developed in that sense. You touched upon SDGs, which are the Sustainable Development Goals that United Nations has taken. That's one of the way of measuring where we stand, each of these countries, where we stand on. There are 17 different broad goals, and obviously each of those have several, sub goals, you can say, and milestones, etc. That collectively tells us on each of these different sectors how are we as a country progressing. So, if I may ask our esteemed panelists, that you are working in this space where, like we in business, we have some targets at the end of the day to fulfill, be top line, bottom line, employee satisfaction, etc., etc. In your sector, probably the most important goal, collectively, not individually, are those SDG kind of goals. There could be other goals also. Even I know organizations who have set their own goals, which are far more stricter than SDG, goals and all. But we get to hear. I'm sure that many other young researchers here would have noticed that we are one of some articles in the newspaper or somewhere. We get to hear about some sector in India is doing pathetic or bad or good or whatever. Some pop-ups there, and then after that there is nothing. So people don't have a real understanding where we stand on that, right? And I don't know if I may stretch it. It's not only the people out here who may not be connected to the core social sector, but even a lot of people in core social sector have no clue where we stand against the goals that we have set out for, right? So what's your take on that? What do you think? Any of you can start. Pooja, Majid, are we comfortably placed? Are we somewhere aligned to our targets?
So I think the SDGs, like you said, is a good way of defining targets and having measurable ways of checking whether you're on track. And that's probably the only way you can actually very emphatically and objectively say yes, things are improving or not. Because anecdotal evidence can sometimes be not necessarily as objective. I think the world at large is progressing towards the SDGs, but I also feel that while there is progress, there isn't absolutely adequate progress, right? And a lot of the geopolitical issues, the crisis that we've seen, the pandemic that we all went through, I think a lot of those unplanned and in many ways catastrophic events that have happened have really pulled back a lot of the progress. I think there are global estimates that talk about how collectively we are probably about 10 to 12% of the way, and I think we are more than 50% in terms of the timeline, right? Because we had set these goals for 15 years, and we've crossed the midway this year. What we do at the Gates Foundation, and this is a small plug, but hold on to this, is we actually publish a report every year on what we call the goalkeepers. The idea really is essentially globally to create that noise, and the point you were making, Parijat, about people don't really know what's happening. So at a country level, nobody's really publishing that data, nobody's looking at how we are progressing. But what we try to do at the foundation is put out a global report every year around ANGA, so it's going to actually come out next month, which does some bit of that tracking and also highlights some good work. So you actually look at data in terms of how it is currently and projections.
Great.
And we say progress is possible, but it's not inevitable. You have to continue to work towards it. So there's a lot more to be done. India has done well in some spaces, definitely. I mean, when you look at the work that we've done in terms of financial inclusion and the whole digital banking and digital payments and UPIs and everything that we're doing in that space is phenomenal. We've also moved pretty progressively on some of our health indicators. But there's so much more to do given the scale in the country. So yeah, there is progress. It's definitely not up to the mark, and there's a long way to go.
And thanks for sharing that you keep on publishing this part. It's so important to have our own performance measured. Otherwise, what we are working towards, and especially when any sector where there are interests of multiple stakeholders, including government, politicians, and whatnot, there will always be a noise of wrong data, suppressed data, no data, and too much of data. Right. So all those are equally bad for a researcher. Right. So as or a sector, anybody who is working on a sector. So it's really important to have such kind of periodic data assessment coming out. Yeah, thanks for that. And I'd like to speak to Amajit about it. Know from you. Your endeavor is, like we discussed at the beginning, half of the population, right? And that's more of a horizontal rather than a vertical, like health, nutrition, skill development, etc., etc. You are working across. Obviously, there are some intersections which are more important than the list. And this is probably one area you, being more of a horizontal, you need to keep pace and remain connected with so many different verticals. So two questions to you. One, what do you think we are in the space of overall gender? And number two, do you see a challenge in really syncing up with so many verticals, the data availability across these verticals? Because to run a horizontal, you need to have data coming out, kind of handshaking happening with all the verticals, right? So your take on that. Are we in a good position? Very loaded question.
I think it's good that we are discussing this. And at ICRW, as you know, we work on gender. Now, gender is not something which is sectoral. It cuts across. It cuts across all sectors. So there are issues, and it manifests in different ways. Say on the issue of health, it could manifest in a different way on the issue of education. It could manifest in a different way on the issue of nutrition. So, and it goes on, even on climate change, which has different manifestation. But there's one thing, I wanted to bring out here is that we have gone through this massive pandemic. And during the pandemic, there are many indicators which have actually regressed. And that's like, all the gains that we have done over the past, say, 50 years, a lot of it has actually been washed out. during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yes. And just to give you an example on this, I'm talking about data. We at ICRW, and we had a consortium in Jharkhand where we are working on prevention of child marriage. Now, the first time when I spoke up about child marriage, and we were doing this seminar, and I'm glad that Dr. Kaushik also brought it up. I think it just doesn't strike people that child marriage is a problem in India, but it is a huge problem in India. And the manifestation of child marriage is not because of some customary things that are happening in a remote village in somewhere in Jharkhand. It's actually rooted in gender inequality. That's what the cause is. And when you analyze and when you get deeper into the data, you see the reason why women, the young girls, are not going to school. There are huge dropouts. Third one happens after class 12. By the time, there are very few who actually reach the college. And what happens in this period? The best alternative that is available is to get her married. Why is this happening? It's not because only the school is a little far away. It's not because only that we are not able to pay the fees. But the girl is not viewed as an economic entity in herself. So that's something which is rooted in patriarchal norms that we have. So the gender norms and the social norms are so deep rooted, so entrenched that it takes kind of ages and years to move them. And while this needle was moving, we had this massive pandemic where it actually regressed. So some interesting finding, talking about the data from that same child marriage prevention program. This was a quasi-experimental design that was adopted. So the researchers, young researchers would understand this. So we had a program, geography, where this program was being implemented by our partners and us. And we had a non-program geography. So those two were compared over the period. And we went through this pandemic during this program period. It was running over 6 years. Now we are in the 7th year. And what we saw is that the actual rates of child marriage declined in both program area as well as non-program areas. But the decline was huge in non-program areas, and the decline was little, it was marginal in the program areas. So even to hold it at where we were 6 years ago is so difficult at this point of time. So that's where we can imagine that how important this whole gender, working on gender is, because it's pervasive and it cuts across. So while we are all celebrating about sectoral achievements, but there is something deep, which is actually cutting it. And we have heard of the shadow pandemic, violence against women, that was occurring during the pandemic itself. So I think I just leave you with that thought.
Thanks for addressing this
story about gender norms, and I do want to sort of talk about. Just humor me for a minute. This is a story from Bangladesh actually, and I don't remember the exact details of exactly how it was related to me, but I do want to share it. There's a conversation with one of the village leaders who was talking about how the area where they were living, they found a lot of arsenic in the water, very high levels of arsenic. So this NGO and the organization that was working on the water quality there actually did a little exercise with the villagers, and they said, you know what, we'll mark the hand pumps, because water was drawn from the hand pumps, and there were hand pumps across an entire region. So it wasn't as if women had to walk 5 kilometers to get water. So they said, we'll mark the hand pumps red and green. The red ones are where there's very high levels of arsenic, so please do not take water from those, because they're already there. So uprooting them and all of that is a challenge. So we just mark them. So the red ones, poisonous water, please do not take. And the green ones, okay water, please draw from that. So that sort of, they did those communications and sessions and explained to everybody, and everybody nodded their heads and says, we get it. So this village elder who was relating the story in this project, so this interviewer says, okay, great. So then everybody understood and people started to draw water from the green hand pumps. They said, yeah, mostly. He said, so your house is right there in the village, so you draw water from a green hand pump. He said, no. He said, so what do you draw water from? From the red pump. But you know that that's poisonous water. Why would you do that? He says, because actually the water is drawn by the women. And in our lane, we only have the red pump. The green pump is in the next lane. And women are not allowed to go to the next lane. So, we actually end up drinking poisonous water knowingly. Because one, we cannot allow our women to go to the other lane to get water. And two, we refuse to get water ourselves. We could not, the men could not stand up and say, hey, let us draw the water if the women can't go to the other lane. But that's how deep-rooted the norms are. And knowingly, they're drinking, willing to drink poisonous water daily, but not being willing to actually change that norm and that behavior because of exactly what you said. That's how deep-rooted and challenging it is. So,
Yeah. So they look at it this way, and they means everybody that the risk of drinking highly poisonous arsenic water is not as big a risk as allowing the woman to go to the next lane, or it is to my male ego that I am getting the drinking water from the next lane. Right? Both are so risky that I am happier with the water.
I love the subtlety.
Yeah, really. So these are really amazing stories we get to hear, and good that there's some good work going on, especially in these two, three spaces that we just talked about, hunger and gender in general. Would like to understand from you in the space of education, which is your primary focus, and after that I will come to you that apart from these three, any other areas or sectors where you think India is doing probably better, or some sectors which requires immediate pull-up of socks and we are all neglecting, anything from a multilateral and wider perspective that you can. But before that, let's hear from her.
I think, like Sir said before, right, the norms are so deeply rooted that there's very little one can do actively. Because
Is education helping?
education, I feel, is the only way to move forward, right? Once they're educated, then only they know the difference. Say, for example, in INTU itself, we have a family where we have 3 girls who come from the same family. They don't have a brother, so the parents were taunted quite a bit, which actually caused them to leave the village because the mother could no longer take it anymore. And they came to the city. Obviously, cost of living in the city was a lot more. They were living in a cramped space. Everyone was in each other's space. So that led to a lot more tensions. And the only thing the father kept saying was, as soon as she turns 18 years old, I'm going to get her married. Because they wanted her to then leave the house because there was no space. And instead of investing in her education, he had to save money for the wedding. That's when we kind of came in. We helped her through school. She started college. Alongside college, she started working. And after 2 years of working, she'd saved enough money and they bought an auto for the father, which he then put on rent. And now they earn a passive income of 10,000 rupees a month. So now the girl is 23 years old and the father's in no rush to get her married. He now says that, I will find a boy who's suitable for her, who is educated, who is well settled, and then I will get my daughter married, and not in the village, but in the city, to a man who's progressive. So I feel education is the only way out. And, just to sum it up, like we mentioned about the SDGs, in my opinion, say gender equality is one of the SDGs where we perform most poorly. But as and when we start taking longer strides in quality education, in better jobs and economic growth, we will see change in gender inequality. But until we don't achieve that in the other segments, we will not be able to see that.
Great point. Thanks for bringing it. And also it connects with what Amarjit talked about, that economic value or the perceived economic value of a girl child, for the matter, which is right now is negative, right? It's a headache. I have to marry her off. I hate this phrase, which is very, very commonly used, right? But anyway, that's different. Parayadhan, exactly. So, coming to you, Dr. Kaushik, any other sector you would like to throw some lights on where probably we are either doing very good or probably requires some immediate attention.
Yeah, there was a SDG index report which was released just a month back.
By government.
By the Niti Aayog and
Niti Aayog.
UNDP. So I mean, so as per that report, I mean, we are doing pretty well on most sectors, particularly on poverty reduction, where a lot of people have moved up and out of poverty in the last 10 years. And I mean, there is a lot of work, progress with regard to employment, with regard to climate action, those things. I think, the other panelists have touched upon the most the sectors where we lack, which is the goal 5 on gender equality. That's where we are always in the red, and that's the most important area, which is cross-cutting across several health, education, and so many other sectors. And also, education is also something that the quality of education is something where we lack. So even in terms of quality of education, what fifth graders cannot read the second grade level, they can't do divisions, all those things are kind of repeatedly talked about. So that's the quality of education is there. And also I think on hunger and nutrition, it's again where India is kind of pretty. There's significant improvement which needs to be there, because we have the stunting capital of the world. About 32 million children under 6 are stunted. It's about 1/3 to 40% are undernourished in some form. So that's those are the kind of products. And again, these are again aggregates. And if you look at state level desegregation, which the report offers, there are significant stark inequalities across even across geographies. So Government of India has its aspirational block program, aspirational district program, where specific action is kind of taken in those vulnerable geographies. I think.
Great. Thanks.
And just one more point. India is also kind of having what we call as the demographic dividend. The population in the working age groups is going to increase over the next 25 years and peak at 2040. And so this is an opportunity to reap the demographic dividend. So other countries, developed countries, including Japan, their working age population is going to dip by 20%, which has a lot of implications on their future productive force. So unless we are able to capacitate our young people and remove those gender bias, the harmful social norms that are so prevalent in our society, so we will not be able to take advantage of this demographic dividend. So gender equality, employment, skill building, education holds the key for us to take this best.
Very valid point. And in fact, this is one area where India should be, as an overall country, should be taking the example or what we got to see in China, which had the demographic dividend few decades back, and they couldn't really encash that. And unless we pull up our socks now and do something about having the equal opportunity for all genders, all inequalities are removed, so that the demographic dividend really comes in volumes, and at the same time there is a healthy body, healthy mind to really drive that. So otherwise another couple of decades will become again closer to China or Japan, that will be having an aging population. So yeah, we have a lot of expectations from this younger generation. And coming back to the younger people in the audience, so I'm sure you would have picked up quite a few ideas about the areas that you can take up, or you can motivate others in your organization, right? Who can pick up any of this, be it skill development, be it education, be it gender, and each of these, it's like that if you start peeling out, there are so many different layers that you can work on. And as you can hear and understand that none of these areas are like we have done enough, right? Each of these areas needs more people, more brain, more money. Okay, you don't have to contribute on that. But otherwise also, there are so many things each one of us can bring in. So, as the last comments, I'd like to hear from any of you, all of you, anything that you want to tell to the young researchers here and online, how they can contribute, how they can help, anything that inspires them.
So I think the fact that we are putting in the effort to really understand what these interplays are and why some of these challenges are really as stark as they are, I think that's a space that research is really, really required for. It's not just understanding a norm, but also sort of going deeper to understand why that norm exists and what's the implication. And it's only when we start to understand what those barriers are that you can start to unpack and say, okay, so therefore, how can we address those barriers? So I think we really look up to the research community and people who are doing this kind of work to help us really gather those insights, because actual solution development can only happen on top of those insights, when you understand not just the system or the people, but actually the undercurrents and the context. So more power to you all to continue to do all this great work, because God knows a lot of it is required, right? Thanks.
No pressure, guys.
More than happy to.
More than happy to do. Yes.
Yeah, I think the young researchers, what I would like to share is, there's some recent report which has come out which talks about how in India especially, I think the poverty reduction programs have succeeded. And I think some of the latest estimates say that about less than 10% are currently below the poverty line. There is an interesting concept which is called, the accident of birth. So most of the people who are now poor are because of the accident of birth, because they are born in a situation from which they are not able to come out, and they remain poor in that setting. But there is another concept which is called accidents of life. So there are certain incidents in the life, for example, a major disease that happens, a major natural calamity that happens, some expenses like marriage that happens in the family, because of which people again slip back to poverty. So there are about 34% of people who are vulnerable in that category, where if there is a shock that is coming in terms of accidents of life, then they slip back into the poverty area.
They don't have the cushion.
They don't have the cushion. So I think, for the researchers, I think this is a very interesting thing to look at, and because that kind of tells us that the vulnerabilities are quite high within different sectors, and I think how organizations can help in such vulnerable situations to actually manage those vulnerabilities of the communities. I think that is going to be very important as we move forward in the coming years. So I think this is something which I would like you to kind of consider.
Food for thought for next year TCP. Yeah. Great. Anything you'd like to add, please?
Yeah, I see that the development sector has borrowed heavily from the corporate sector, the commercial sector, in terms of management practices, in terms of communication. So also, it has kind of the research methodologies and approaches have been adapted from the market.
And also from academia.
Yeah. So I think in terms of the agility and the nimbleness of market research, I think if the researchers can kind of bring it to the social sector, that will do a lot of, it will enrich the sector, it will
make things faster,
give good insights, timely insights. Because when we do the when we do a marketing campaign or advertising campaign, the kind of insight that you really need are very fast. But in the social sector, things kind of have a longer time frame. So I think some of these approaches, if they can be adapted and brought in, that the young people and they can kind of over their careers kind of enrich this. That will be a great value add to this sector. I think.
Fantastic, very good idea. So there could be a lot of such synergies where this cross-learning between the consumer researcher and social researchers can do a lot of things jointly.
How we can use innovation, big data, those things.
And this entire technology and AI and all, everything can help. Right. Any parting comment from you?
I think ours has been an NGO which has recently benefited from one such research like this, and the team is present here today. So some of the insights that they gave us has actually helped us now figure out how do we better communicate with the children and help us build a better plan for the last quarter of the year.
Great. That's a great testimonial from the team. Yeah, we could go on, and I'm sure everybody would have loved, including the audience. But yeah, we have already crossed the time. Thank you everybody for these wonderful contributions, and I'm sure it has been quite enriching for most of us in the audience. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Parijat, and a huge thank you for the panelists. A very enlightening session for me, and even for the young researchers. I think there were layers and layers of what was said. We take gender equality as a big theme, but there are like an onion has rings and layers. You need to peel it out to come right at the bottom of what the core problem is, and lots of thoughts for you guys to take on next year's TCP event and the social theme. That said, I think over the last couple of months, we have been working with the young researchers who have put in lots of efforts, hard work, commitments. And as TCP also, there are layers of funneling that had happened. So we started from the first stage of where they had just given us a submission of an entry and intent to participate in TCP. That submission went to one layer of supervision or screening, where we understood why did the researcher really want to take up a social theme, why did they want to participate. So we understood their intent, their passion. Then it went to the next level where we said, okay, now you're good, please send us in your proposal. There was a second round of evaluation which was done by our steering committee. So we reviewed the proposals, we got back to some of the researchers, talked to them, got them to really get into the core of it. So it is more to say that at the end of it, when you're taking up a course, don't take it as a research project. You need to see that are you really benefiting the NGO. So it was absolutely, we were really stringent about it. We were really very, very conjuice, in no other word, to say that you can't let go of a proposal. And then there was a third layer when they really presented to the jury panel, the esteemed jury panel. There's always a learning. There will always something that you can do better for next year. So always hope for improvement. And for that, we are going to come up with the next session, which Priya will have. It is fireside chat with the jury. They will tell us their experience as a jury panel, what can you learn. So please take it as a learning ground to say that how can you improve yourself and come back again next year. So over to Priya.
I will keep it absolutely short. I think we were part of the jury and I learned a lot from them while we were listening to the young researchers. Yeah, and even today, I'm so delighted and actually I'm honored because I've written like a page of notes from all that you all spoke. Very quickly, I want to know what was your experience and when you heard the young researchers. I'll hand the mic to Dr. Kaushik, he's standing close to me, and then to pass it on to Amarjit.
I think first of all, thanks for asking us to be part of the jury. It was a very enriching experience and a very learning. It was a very good learning experience for me personally to interact and be part of the process. I mean, first I was very impressed by the range of topics. And such insightful and relevant topics that were part of the submissions, right from like bystander behavior to organ donation to livelihoods. It was amazing. It was, and also, I was impressed by the methodology, how well it was conceptualized and how it was executed, and all those things were top notch. And also I would like to congratulate MRSI for curating such a rigorous process for kind of validating and vetting the proposals and scoring them. So that was kind of a big kudos to you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Guys, clap.
So I think, I agree with Dr. Kaushik when he was talking about it. I think at first, I think Parijat had reached out to me to see if this is something which I would like to pursue. So at the beginning, I was not very keen, of course, because all of us have our own workloads and everything planned. But then Parijat kind of persuaded me to say that, to convince me that this is going to be an interesting journey for me as well. And I'm so thankful to you, Parijat, because it has been an interesting journey for me. And the presentations, when those happened and when I received the slide decks, I was actually super impressed while looking at all the presentations, because the kind of issues that were taken up for research were really impressive. And it was even more so because I thought most of our young researchers have come from market research background and typical consumer research, but the zeal and the depth with which they have taken up these social research issues is commendable, and I think this is superb.
I'm going to start with you. What is the advice, maybe anything that you want to offer our young researchers, because I think they are the beacon of hope and they're going to pass the torch, because it's Olympics, to the next round of researchers. So what is it that you would advise them to do? Anything that you picked up that they can enhance, improve, sharpen? And I think that would be a great time to answer.
Right. So thank you for that question also. So in fact, when I came to know that I will have to give some advice to young researchers, so that was quite a bit of burden for me. But what I did, I made some notes actually, because it was difficult for me also, because all the presentations were good, I must say. So a couple of things which I noted for you to kind of consider as an advice is, when we do the studies, when we do the research, there are multiple stakeholders who are important, for that particular research. So we must make an effort to consider all the stakeholders and how we can improve them. And I know there will be always resource-related, issues. There will be time-related issues. But I think as a researcher and as a team, we should figure that out. That how best we can include all the important stakeholders in that research, so that the findings that you are presenting and the solutions that you are getting to are really relevant and they are pragmatic as well. So that's one advice I had. The other one that I had, sometimes as a researchers we also have an urge to find a solution for everything. But that's not pragmatic, and that's not going to happen. As a researcher, we can't find solutions for everything, because there is something called iterative learning. And iterative learning tells us that, while we do one round of research, that gives us the findings, but it also sets the agenda for the next level of research. So I think I'm a very big advocate of iterative learning, because I don't think that one research, one study can give me all answers. So be ready for iterative learning. I think that's something which is going to help us in future. And the third and the last one that I think is going to be important, all studies, whoever does the study, wherever it happens in the world, would have some limitations. So while we are doing the study and when we are publishing the study, when we are presenting the study, we need to be cognizant of the limitations also. And I think it is always good if we say it up front, that this particular study has these 2 or 3 limitations. So that sets the expectation very clearly, right? And believe me, nobody will expect you to conduct a study without any limitation. That is not done in this real world. So be upfront about it and mention it. So these are the 3 things I wanted to share.
Lovely, brilliant.
Yeah, at the recommendations and the insights that the studies provided to the NGOs were really very sharp and insightful. So the only suggestion that I have is that we could given the scale of India and given the magnitude of the issues, some of these things could be kind of findings or recommendations could be limited to that particular context or that particular geography or that particular sector. What it'd be useful is to see what is the kind of generalizability or replicability and scalability, because for the scale of of India, so we need to see those dimensions also, so that your research can have far more impact than that particular NGO. So that's kind of wherever relevant. I'm not saying it's relevant, but for in all the cases, but where relevant, try to come out of the context and see how it can fit in, and also link it to the policy, because that is where it will have the greatest impact. Pravin was talking about the legislation in Czechoslovakia, which impacted the whole country. So if we are able to kind of make a policy impact, then the multiplier effect is going to be much larger than this thing. So we have to kind of think at scale, and working at the policy level with the government is, and what do these findings have for larger government programs, donor programs. So if you kind of think along those lines and kind of articulate your findings, that would be a great value add.
I want to say thank you. I wish I was a young researcher and I had this advice. I think it always holds us in good stead. And every time we do TCP, it just fires us, sparks a thought, as Pravin said, it sows seeds for the future. Hope you carry that and keep doing whatever you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you, Amarjit, and thank you, Dr. Kaushik, for your invaluable feedback to our young researchers. Next year you will see even much better presentations coming from us. At this session we had 6 participants who presented to our jury panel. We had many more who put in their proposals and presentations. While not everyone could make it to the final stage and present to the jury panel, their efforts were still there, and we at MRSI believe that every participant who contributed or participated in TCP is a winner in herself or himself, and we would like to recognize their efforts and the time that they have put in and their passion that they have put in for the cause. So we would like to acknowledge Astha Gupta from Ipsos, the team from Borderless Access, Bhaskar and Subhashni, and Shiva and Shruti from Insights Elite. Thank you guys for your efforts, for putting in the efforts and taking a step forward for the TCP. We want to see you back next year, so we look forward to your entries again. And now comes the final, really everybody is really waiting for. So I would like to invite Ranko for the next round. Over to you.
So this year has been pretty outstanding, both in terms of number of entries we had for this program, as also the quality of the presentations. I have been now associated for 3 years, and each year we have been seeing an uptick in the quality of presentations and the scale of competition. So what happens is, with the increasing quality, it becomes challenging for the jury to decide and deliberate upon who are going to be the winners, and we have seen this across these 2-3 years, especially the time taken for the jury to decide on who is going to be the winner, and that is an inevitable outcome of any competition. You need to have a winner, and after extensive deliberation, 3 finalists were selected. But first, let's take a moment to appreciate the impressive work of all the 6 participants, please.
Can we please give a round of applause? Thank you, Ranko, and we would still like to have your speech. We would now start with the commendation awards. Yeah.
Bhavna Thakur. Yeah, the project they were working on, the social cause they were working on, she was working on, is improving lives of children with disabilities. Congratulations.
Certificate photo, Bhavna?
So she just.
I thought.
लाइट बंद करिए जो हुई है.
Yeah. Ankita Chile, and the project social cause was understanding the impact of religious beliefs on organ donation. Shivam was along with it?
Yes, sure.
Okay, so it was a team.
Yeah.
So Shivam Mehta for the same project. Congratulations. Yeah.
Hold the sit. Yes.
Thank you. So we have the social cause was enhancing retention and employment outcomes in India's skill building programs. Shahbaz Ahmed and Nikita Thakran.
the three finalists, Chandramodi from Cantor, Stigda and Ronak from Nielsen IQ, Monica and Tripti from Ipsos. I would now like to invite Anila Vinayak, General Manager Beauty and Wellbeing for Personal Care at Hindustan Levers and TCP Chair for 2024.
Thank you. I have a very difficult task. One is I'm in the middle of the awards, never a right place to be. But I think the more difficult job that I have to do today is to represent the organization and to represent the TCP both at the same time. So HUL is very, very deeply passionate and you know, whilst we sponsor bits and pieces of other events, actually our long-term commitment is to the community project. And there's a reason that we do that, right? And the reason really is that yes, whilst in my day job, I confess I sell soap and shampoo, and bulk of the research that I do then is around those topics. But actually as HUL and as Unilever, we're very, very deeply vested in making a social impact, even beyond what regular CSR responsibilities do. So, and hence, as you know, whilst like I said, I do all my research on how to sell one more sachet of shampoo, but you know what, sometimes we do research on other topics, right? And those are the topics that I've realized that in my 30-year career have always left a mark, right? You know, so we worked on helping kids reach 5 through the Lifebuoy hand washing program, growing stronger daughters through Clinic Plus. Most recently, I don't know if you guys saw it, but Stop the Beauty Test with the Matrimonials. And all of this is, you know, backed by research going in, which is the deep insight on which the behavior change is expected to happen, but also post that measurement tracking, you know, understanding whether we made a difference. So today I just want to leave you with one message, right? And I realize that the toughest part of my job actually is actually the little bit that I get to do on the social bit. And the reason that it is very difficult is because, you know, every last bit has to be curated. Every last question, who you will go to, the way in which you will speak to them, the way the question is worded, how you will interpret the results, and how you will finally, and you know, somebody referred to it earlier, said go to each and every stakeholder to be able to drive that change is so critical. You know, when you're selling Clinic Plus shampoo, you really have 2 people to convince and your job is done. So it's very difficult. So one thing that I do want to say to all the participants from this year is that, you know what, you're already winners because I saw the effort. We all saw the effort you put in. Very, very well thought out methodology. In fact, I thought that the topics themselves this year were goosebumpy. So very well done, you're already winners. I think the second thing that I will say that you're already all winners is really because, you know what, whether you get a certificate today or not, actually you touched lives, and there can be nothing more meaningful, right? So that is something you should be very proud of and keep doing more of this. And I can tell you that when you're my age, the stories that you will tell will really not be any more about the soap and shampoo that you sold. It will be about the lives that you touched. So just very, very well done. Yes. And I'd like to first announce the runners-up, Monica Khatri and Tripti Joshi. If you can. Monica and Tripti worked on people with intellectual disabilities. They brought alive some of the challenges. They brought alive the challenges in a really, really nice visual manner, made us immerse in that world and made us feel everything that is there. Thank you so much. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Stigda Gupta and Ronak Singh, if you could join me, please. Runners up for TCP again in 2024. They did work on education and gender equality. Again, very impressive work, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. Very, very well done. I know the jury was very impressed with their command on the topic, but also how they dealt with questions and the sheer maturity of the work. Very well done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And two-time participant and the winner of 2024, Chandramouli Sundaram. Very well. It's really a very difficult topic. I'm very proud of you for picking this up. Congratulations. We worked on changing bystander behavior. And I personally was quite awed when I looked at the presentation because I thought that the way you, did work on something which is very system one. There's so much difference between claimed response and actual response. So super well done and congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Anila. Congrats, Chandramouli, Snigdha, and everybody, each one of you. We can't not go without thanking many others who have been instrumental in making this happen. And I'm going to give it to Diana.
Yes, finally from behind the console as usual. We want to extend grateful and heartfelt thank you to everyone who made this possible. And starting with HUL, who has been an amazing partner for the last 2 editions. To the young researchers, your dedication and the passion is truly inspirational. And the organization, your organizations that backed you up and gave you the time to dedicate to this cause, we only can say a big thank you. To the NGOs that put all the trust in your work, another big thank you. This would have not been possible without our TCP2024 committee, who tireless has put all the hard work to make this happen, and the jury, who has had the biggest challenge, and you had to evaluate such great job, and we have heard so much about how tough it was to you. Thank you so much for this. We are grateful to the panelists, to the speakers. You shared some expertise and insights, and this has been very valuable to all of us. You contributed to the success of this event. I would like to have a special thank you to the team Ipsos, especially Pravin and Sunil. They have really put hard work to set up and all the logistics around this event. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you being present there. You've taken your time to be with us, and we are grateful for you. Thank you to people that are watching us from home. And last but not least, our managing committee members that are here after an extensive managing committee meeting as well. And thank you so much for all the support partners, for the creative agency that made this event look beautiful. We hope to see you next year at TCP 2025.